MSJ, Max for short, and welcome to my YouTube channel. And in this episode, it is episode 3 of the 13th Wolfman Challenge. It's season 2. We started this last year when the world kind of went into shutdown. And I was like, hey, 13th Wolfman. I kind of issued a impromptu challenge to him. It's like, hey, go into your movie collection and find a movie based on this criteria, and I also want you to challenge me. And we did this last year, and then he's like, you know what, I want to challenge you this time. So it's like, oh, cool. So we've been kind of going back and forth, and this last episode I challenged him to, like, hey, go into your movie collection and find a couple animated movies in your collection and just kind of show them off. And so, but before I reveal my answers, I need you to click subscribe, hit the bell to stay notified for any future videos I will be creating right here on this channel, and as well as leave a like, comment, and share to help me get my channel and videos out there to a much broader audience, and as well as do me a solid and go over to the 13th Wolfman YouTube channel and do the exact same, because this series would not exist without him collaborating with me. So now, when I watched his reveal for my answers, or for my challenge to him, it was like, oh man, great minds think alike. And his first choice was what inspired this challenge was heavy metal. It's a great 80s animated movie. It has a great soundtrack of just Blue Oyster Cult, Sammy Hagar doing the title track, heavy metal. It's just little short vignettes of these little stories, but it's kind of all centered around this green glowing orb called the Lochnar, and it's kind of like either like it's going through time and space, and just be like, hey, it shows up in these most random places, like, hey, it can show up in New York, or like it starts out like in the middle of like a cornfield, I think, and this little girl finds it and or comes upon it, and then you can go into space and deal with these really drugged out aliens played by Cheech and Chong. I do believe that's who they're playing. Or you can get this kind of like really kind of like John Candy, who's a nerd, and he touches the Lochnar and gets these powers, and he kind of goes off and tries to save this woman who's being sacrificed and stuff like that. I do believe that's what's going on. But there's just a lot going on, and it's just good 80s animation. It's very crude, a lot of nudity, drugs, sex, violence. I mean, it's like, if the title doesn't give you an example, even the artwork on the front doesn't give it away, like what to expect, then that's on you. So, and then my other one is Clerks Uncensored. It's the Clerks cartoon. It's only 6 episodes. I think only 2 of them aired on TV, so when this came out, you get the additional 4 episodes. The episodes themselves aren't uncut because they were originally for like ABC, I do believe, but like the little intros to each episode are uncut, so like you get Jay and Silent Bob kind of just doing little quick intros. But this is a lot of fun. It's set in the VSQ universe, like at the Quick Stop and everything, and it's just Dante and Randall kind of doing these various movie references, and like they go through Indiana Jones, and like they do like a flashback episode, and they've only had like maybe 3 episodes, so they're like, remember when, and it's like cuts back to like 5 minutes ago, and it's like, that's really good. So it's just a lot of like cheesy and tongue-in-cheek humor, and it's a lot of pop culture references and everything like that. So it's, if you're a Kevin Smith fan, you're gonna love this, and even if you're not, you will get some of the references. Like they even have like a whole episode from like the Bad News Bears and stuff like that. So it's like, it's a lot of fun. Now, with those out of the way, he issued a challenge to me that he wanted me to go into my movie collection and find 3 movies that are overhyped, overwatched, and overlooked. Now, I have a lot of movies that fit into each of those categories, at least 2 or 3 that was really good top contenders, and like narrowing them down wasn't tough. But I think I have a pretty good selection of movies that I really wanted to do all horror, but I'm like, but it's a movie collection. You gotta kind of show it off. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I kind of broaden it a little bit. So for Overhyped, I'm picking Glass because I really enjoyed Unbreakable and Split, and with the really big reveal at the end of Split saying like Unbreakable, it was the first one, and like, oh man, what are they gonna do with the second one, or the third one? And Glass came out, and I was like really, really, really hyped for this one, and I think a lot of people was due to like the trailers and everything, and like when they were like some of the shots in the trailer with all three of them in a room, like, oh man, what's going to happen? And I cannot wait. And as good as Split was, and how good Unbreakable was, it was really, the hype was up there. And sadly, the ending kind of made jobbers out of all of them. Basically, like they were all squash matches for each of our main characters in the movie, and I really killed the hype for me. Like, I've only watched this movie once, and I probably will watch it maybe once more. To be honest with you, maybe when I like want to do a trilogy day, like that are really loose trilogies, and so that's probably my top contender. But when I first got to watch it, I'm like, oh man, I was really, really hyped, and then the ending kind of killed it. They killed the hype in a big bad way. So now for the Overwatched, this is kind of a broad stroke of all of it, because the 13thWolfman mentioned like me and him are in a bunch of groups on Facebook, and I don't know about him, but I'm also in a bunch of book clubs on Facebook. Like people were like talking about what they're reading, what recommendations and everything, and one that constantly pops up, at least for me, is which Stephen King book is the scariest, which Stephen King book is this and that, and that kind of got me thinking, like, oh man, like that also kind of translates to movies as well, because Stephen King is definitely overwatched. This is not exactly, this is just a kind of a placeholder for like Stephen King in general, chapter 1 and 2, but I love Stephen King. I'm currently reading one of his books right now, so it's like, to me to say this is like being able to like step out of the mind frame of a fan and be like, hey, it's true. I mean, like as much as big as a fan as I am, he is overwatched, and because he's very intro to horror. Like if you're first starting out watching horror movies, Stephen King movies are definitely, in my opinion, really good horror movies to start with, because if you can kind of get through some of these movies, especially It Chapter 1 and 2, and Pet Cemetery, the newer Pet Cemetery, because there is some kind of strong imagery in some of these. Some of them may be a little hokey, but like some of them are like, if you have a fear of clowns, you're not going to watch it. But if you can make it through it, then you can probably kind of move on to the next level of horror watching, and kind of just keep kind of gradually moving down the list of like being able to like take in more horror, and or kind of withstand some of the more gory and very, very intense imagery that some of the more hardcore horror fans are able to withstand. So that's why I kind of like Stephen King is kind of overwatched, because a lot of people are just kind of watching it just because it's kind of baseline horror to me. So, but that's not in a bad way. I mean, I do like watching kind of more mainstream horror movies as well. But my bread and butter is more the more gorier, intense horror movies. And so, and finally, the last category is overlooked, and my final choice is Hell Ride. It is a kind of in vein of the old school biker movies like Hell's Angels and Easy Rider and stuff like that. it's just really good because all the actors are doing their own stunts. They're riding the motorcycles and when these big long takes and stuff like that. If you think of like Sons of Anarchy, but it's a little bit more grittier, like Grindhouse. That's basically what this is. It's like if you would like want to do like a really cool triple feature day, you would watch like Death Proof, Planet Terror, and Hellride. They kind of get like the real full spectrum of like the Grindhouse films. So this is a good because it's also presented by Quentin Tarantino, who did Death Proof. So I would definitely. I almost picked Death Proof for this choice, but I wanted to kind of pick something a little bit more overlooked, and it has Dennis Hopper, Larry Bishop, Vinnie Jones. Who else is in this movie? There's a lot of people in this movie. Oh, Michael Madsen. You even may recognize one of them, Eric Balfour from Haven, because I see those movies behind you, 13th Wolfman. Once again, it's a gritty movie. I mean, but it's shot very well. It's definitely not for everybody. That is for sure. But I enjoy it. But that's really all I gotta say about this one. Because I don't really want to give too much away, because it's just about two biker gangs kind of fighting one another, and they're trying to figure out traitors within the group, and they're just kind of doing stuff like that. And it's like typical, like stuff you've seen a bunch of times, but it's done pretty well, in my opinion. So, with that all that said, now it's my turn to lay a challenge onto the 13th Wolfman. Now, if you've watched our videos, you know that me and the 13th Wolfman are, we have kind of an age gap. So, I have to hurry. My furnace kicked on. I need you to go into your movie collection and find a movie that is from the year that you are born. So, that is my challenge. I am the one and only MSJ, Max for short, and I say thank you.